Can you hear that? Can you dig the beats? So I was going to put some shits together on that guy back there. On account of I ordered a couple of quarter pianos and some other shits for it here 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I ain't got some yet. You know, I can order something online from, I'm in Alberta, Canada, and I can order some shits online from, Christ, it don't matter where I order it from. It can be coming from Ohio, it can be coming from Nebraska, it can be coming from Florida, and I'll get it 3 days, 4 days. Generally, it ain't no more than a week. I ordered quarter pianos for that thing, and they're coming from Eastern Canada, Ontario, you dirty sons to bitches. And shit, it's been 2.5 weeks now. I phoned them, I phoned them 3 days ago. Yeah, but there's a weekend in there. And he says they're having a hard time getting shipping. They're having a hard time getting the thing shipped out here. Well, Christ, send them to Ohio then, or send them to North Dakota. Fire them down there. Christ, then I'll get them up here in a couple of days. So, anyways, can't do that yet. So I'm going to send some primer. Firebirds, Camaros, shit like that. These quarters are pretty round. So what I like to use is one of these guys. You can buy all your fancy pants, horse shit stuff, whatever kind of blocks, linear blocks, these blocks, sandwich blocks, sandal blocks, whoever's blocks, big guy blocks, little guy blocks, red-headed girl with big boobs blocks, whatever the hell kind of blocks you want to buy. I don't give a shit. Go ahead and buy them. They're $1,000 goddamn dollars for a set of 3 of them. So if that's what you want to do, do it. This is the old tried and true 25-year-old Durablock, which is it's a hunk of foam, and I mean, I needed to do this. So that's all I need. I don't give a shit. I don't gotta have no TV advertised blardy blardy blar, yada yada. I don't usually rely on, can you see me down here? Where are we? What's going on? Let me see. Gosh darned it. Uh-oh. Settle down, would you? So you see a lot of people, I notice anyways, when they're blocking stuff, the shit that I see people posting is they'll take a nice big long block like this that covers a good portion of that panel, and you'll see them, and they'll be going like this with it. And then they say, well, you want to do a good crosshatch so as to cover all your highs and lows in every direction. But I mean, they're really going up and down. You even see people taking a block like this a lot, and you'll see them on a panel, and they're doing this with it. Does that make any sense to you? And if it does make sense to you, cut it out, because that don't make no sense. You're taking something that is, I mean, this is a solid 2 pecker lengths long, this thing, and so you're taking it that way, and you're going through all your highs and lows with it on the narrowest part possible. That's a lot of jibber jabber. So when I'm blocking something out, I crosshatch it, but not to that extent. I still want to cover. I mean, you want to cover some ground with it, because that's how you're going to straighten a panel out. Is you're going to shave off your highs until they meet your lows. That's the whole idea. That's what's happening once you're to this stage. Is you're taking your highs down to meet your lows. Hopefully, when you're in this stage, you don't have any extreme variances, highs to lows. But if you do, that's what you're doing. I thought I would do this. I thought I would stand you up there and watch this, because it's not very often that I use guide coat. And honestly, the only reason that I guide coated this car is because in, I don't even know when the hell it was, 2021, 2022, something like that. This car went back to the owner so that him and his dad and his family and his buddies and his sisters and his dogs and his cats and the neighbor's hamster could all have a look at this car and work on it and stuff. But they didn't do that. But when something's in primer and somebody's done body work to it, this is what the general populace expects to see. Primer and then guide coated. A lot of people expect to see stripes because you did it with a black spray foam. I don't. When I did this was just leftover dark colors of base coat from paint and stuff that I used to just pour in a can. And then I'd put my coats of primer down, then in my primer gun I'd give it a bloop of the dark colored base. It's kind of actually, I think it's a greeny blue, don't matter. And then I just give it a light mist. That's why it looks dark, because this primer is really light colored. But again, the only reason I did that is just because that's what people want to see. So you want to keep the people happy. Otherwise, I don't know. See, the trunk lid ain't got none on it. The front fenders ain't got none on them because they were done more recently. Anyway. And right now I'm blocking in 180. This thing's actually round enough that it's actually easier with a smaller, same block though, just a little bit smaller. See the curve? This is where it's important to try to do nice body work. This is the part of the procedure where, I ain't going to name any names, because there's actually quite a few of them. But there's lots of channels out there where they'll tell you that this is the part where you start to see what you're going to have to tune up in your body work. This is where, when you start seeing your low spots, where you're going to have to put a little bit of fill and then reprime it so you can block it out again and get it straight. Don't do that. You want it, just cut it out. Do it first. Like if you got to, then when you're body working it, and if you're not too sure and you think you got to put a coat of primer on it to see, don't. Put a coat of guide coat on it and block it again. That guide coat over top of your filler will give you the same effect as wasting a bunch of primer, because primer ain't free. You know? And a lot of times for something like this too, instead of going into a real deep crosshatch like that, I'll hold especially on a curve like this, where and on straights too, never mind, not especially, both. I don't very often just go straight like that with the block across the panel. What you can wind up doing when you do that is you can wind up getting vertical waves in it, especially on a curved panel, because you'll put a flat spot in it this way, then you move down here, then you put another flat spot on it, then you move down here, then you put another flat spot on it. Then, to exaggerate it, then your panel here looks like a stop sign. That makes sense to you? With all them flat spots. Whereas if you do this, and if you got a flexible block, but you can put a curve on it, and effectively now your block is this long by this wide. See what I'm saying? Because you're on an angle. So you're covering this square area with your block. Does that make any sense to you? This is a different paper than I'm used to using. I've usually used carborundum, just sheets. I'm not wearing, normally I'd be wearing a mask too, but I got to do some jibber jabber in here. And actually, I'm not good at talking while I'm working. I don't even know if my microphone's on. Yeah, it is. The hell was I talking about? Oh, different paper. I don't know if I like this as much, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Like this stuff comes in a roll and you cut it like it's a Velcro paper. But yeah, it's not as aggressive. This is 180, and it's not as aggressive as a carborundum 180. And it seems to wear a little bit quicker. So I guess, it's cheaper better because it doesn't cut as fast and the paper wears a little bit quicker. So I'll go through more of this than you know what I'm saying to you? What I started thinking about though is when I'm using a board or a block or something, I'll make sure that I got paper hanging off of one edge a little bit. And then when you're blocking it, when you're coming into something like the curve on a wheel lip or something, that'll hit it softer when you hit that, because you're gonna. You can try not to, but you're gonna. So I think if you hit it with an edge of paper and it hits, you're more likely to put a little cut in it with the edge of your paper. Whereas if you got it curved over the edge, well, that'll make a rounder edge and give you a little more of a buffer. And something else about a lot of them $1 million little blocks. I've seen a lot of them that they're just thin, so thin, just so small, because they're a strip of plastic with some soft foam on one side, and their idea is that you can use a soft foam for doing curves and contours and give you more of a soft edge, or you can flip it over. Ooh, see that? Or you can flip it over and use the hard plastic side, and it'll give you a firmer, straighter, harder surface to block with. But they're so small that everything you're blocking, you got to grab that block, and you can't take something like this and just one-hander. I've also seen and heard a lot of people say don't use a DuraBlock because you can't get it straight with a DuraBlock because they're not actually flat. Well, don't use a DuraBlock on a flat surface then, stupid. They got a curve to them. No, you're not going to get a flat panel straight with that. You use it on a curvy panel, you dink. I just realized that you're way in the hell over there. You can't see what's going on. This is most likely a stamping in the quarter, because you can see that we got a shadow there and a pretty good shadow there. And when I feel it, I can feel there's a lump here. So get something a little smaller to blend into it. This guy, this thing's old, and these were worth money when I got this, because I'll bet you I've had this son of a bitch for damn near 30 years now, and I'm not even kidding. This was, when you got this, there wasn't the knockoffs of these blocks, because you see them everywhere for like $10 or $15 now, made in China, made in Bangladesh, made in wherever. This one is the old official Kopp hand schleifer, because these things, where is this made? Germany, that's where these things were developed originally. And I've had this thing so long. It's a very lightweight block, like it's hollow plastic. I drilled holes in the top, and I drilled some holes in the pad underneath the paper here, because I used to use this for wet sanding too. So I just dunk it in a bucket of water, fill the block up with water, then as you're blocking, the water's coming out, and actually it's not a very good design what I thought I was doing, because the water, you're standing up here, but the water's running away on you down there, so it didn't work very well, but that's what I done. But anyways, with a smaller block, what you kind of want to do is blend your scenes together. You got a movie here with all different kind of scenes. You want to blend all your scenes together. So that's what we're doing. And I guarantee you that when this is all said and done, and I'll show you, while it's still in primer, I'll give her a soak with some degreaser, and we'll have a look at it together, and none of this stuff, you won't even notice any of it. But if we were being anal about it, well, we'd be knocking that down, and we'd be priming it and going through all kinds of more procedures to get rid of that. And then at the end of the day, on this particular car, for this particular customer, that's wasted time and wasted effort. So there. And again, so I got my paper hanging off, and that's giving me a rounded edge there. See what I'm saying? You don't always got to get the round, you don't always got to. And when you're blocking it, just watch what you're doing. Pay attention to what you're seeing. See what you're seeing? Do I got to explain what you're seeing? Just have a look. You know what's going on. Keep your paper clean too. See the way it loads up a little bit there? It ain't cutting nothing when it's loaded up. You got to have the paper touching the primer to cut. If you got a big wad of whatever you're sanding there, a big wad of dust from your filler, from your primer, from your clear, from your whatever the hell you're sanding, I don't give a shit. You got a big turd on there from sanding your ass, whatever it is, clean it off the paper, because you want contact with the paper to the surface. That's how you're going to cut it, and that's how you're supposed to do it. And don't sand your ass. This is kind of a tricky part of these cars. Because the big hip on this baby got back. I don't know why that was kind of funny though. So we got an hourglass here is what we got. And we're getting into the waist. This is the waist. And then, well, I don't know, she's got a big torso. She's kind of gangly, this broad. But, so we're coming in this way, and then we're kind of flattening out. And actually, I don't know if we're flattening out or if we're starting to head the other way again. You know what I'm saying to you? But it ain't flat in here, is what I'm getting at. So this guy isn't really doing me any good in here because, I mean, all I can get is this area here. So we'll carry on with that a little bit, but then we'll go to, you know. If you don't got a little brush, you can use a worn out old scratch pad. It don't matter what kind. Green, red, gray, don't matter. I find if you're doing a reasonable sized panel, and especially if you're doing a fairly big panel, and even especially if it's a really flat panel you're doing, say it's a goddamn Dodge Dart, don't start at one end of the panel and then just concentrate all the way to the other end, especially on a flat panel. You want to move back and forth throughout the panel, because what will wind up happening is if you do have a little low spot or a high spot or something and you start concentrating on that spot, and a big panel like that, you'll wind up putting a little pond in it, if that makes sense to you. I mean, you won't put a big hole in it, but you'll dig something out of there that you'll be able to see. Whereas this is curved, so this is going to hide a lot. This isn't a good example for that. But like I say, if it's a dead nut straight panel, like maybe a box side or a goddamn Dodge Dart, you want to work that whole panel evenly back and forth. Otherwise, you're going to cause... And if you don't care about that, then you don't care about that, and don't listen to what I got to say, because who gives a fat rat's ass? If something seems like it's kind of deceiving you a little bit, so like this little shadow we got right here, I mean, you can't feel it, like there's nothing there. But if you're not 100% confident in, you know, if you haven't done this for 49 and a half years, take a nice towel. So this is like a nice, like this is a Scotch shop towel, you know, like the heavy, they're really smooth. Put it on that surface and give her a rub like that. See, I can't feel that shadow. I can feel that texture through this, but there's nothing there. What this does, put the towel, and I don't know why it does it, but having a nice smooth towel like this between your paw and the surface, it really magnifies anything in that surface. There's a lot of times where you won't be able to feel it with your hand, but then you put a nice smooth towel on there and then you'll find something. But yeah, you give her the business, and it magnifies. I don't know why it does it, it just does. An old guy told me that once, 185 years ago. Alright, it's a couple hours later. Oh, gosh. So I've been rubbing and rubbing. I blowed this off once. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little look-see. We're just going to take a little peek. I got to adjust some lighting. It gets, where are you? It gets too bright with the wall lights on. You know what I'm saying? To do this, to have a look at something, like I got lights all over the walls in here to get side lighting. Gotcha. Instead of just overhead lighting that casts shadows, eh? When you hit the side lighting on it, it kills the shadows, so that's why I got them goddamned everywhere. So this is degreaser. You can buy spray balm clear coats and stuff to do this. I wouldn't. If you want it, go ahead. I don't know. So again, this is 180 grit. Now, If this was something that I was doing that I would want to be ridiculously nice, at this point, if I'm happy with it, what I would do is I'd prime it again. I'd give it one more coat of primer, reduced, so it's like about as thick as paint, and then I'd give it one coat of primer, and then I would sand that with 320 and then probably 400. So here, while it's still shiny. So like I said, this is primed once. This isn't primed 5 times over. But again, find you a picture in the side, whatever you want to look at. I'm following the roof of that truck cab. But you can see, or you can follow this light right here, but it's kind of small. But I mean, you can see the reflection. Right, we're good up there. There's the other side of the shop and the sail panel there. It always looks worse in this degreaser than it will. It'll look better in paint than it does in degreaser, just because the degreaser is so thin. The paint actually does give it a little bit of fill, but I don't know, that's pretty good. I don't like priming shit 3 or 4 times. It's a waste of time. So this is, like I say, and like I've shown in other videos, you do your body work once, and you do your body work well. I mean, when you think about it, how long is it going to take? I'll explain that. What's going to go quicker? Rubbing a piece of 180 and 320 all over something and trying to carve it down that way on your primer, or piece of 80 grit on your filler? Who's going to shape first and the quickest? So what I had here, I had to fix something. So what happened there is I did this car. I put the car in primer, and it has quarter skins on it. So they come in, they're welded about a ½ inch below that line, and this is the existing panel. It was in really nice shape. So the quarters went on it, some wheelhouse work, blah, 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 trunk floors, yada, yada, yada. Did the body work, primed it, and that's 2022, I think. And I noticed when I was sanding that there was a high spot there, a little bubble there. So I dug it out, and there was a rust blister coming through. It wasn't there before, and it's not rust, like it wasn't surface rust that was just ground down, and like I didn't just put some putty over top of some surface rust pits in there and just carry on with it. What it wound up being, is when I opened up the trunk and got inside, in these corners in here in the inside, in both sides, there was a little wad of shit that somebody stuck in there from the factory to make sure that corner sealed up. So what's happened is there was moisture above it and below this quarter, sandwiched in between the two. And the metal was probably quite thin there when I did all my work to this thing. Like it was ready to come through, but it hadn't yet. I didn't know it was there. It was on the inside. Now, in the time that this thing has sat, it worked its way through. I mean, it's been 3 years, maybe longer, 3.5 years since this thing was primed. So in that time, it worked its way through. And it was just the teeniest, tiniest little pinhole of rust. So what I did, and I dug it out of that side too, was actually I took my trunk key and I dug I don't know where it is. I think I threw them in the garbage. But I dug the wad of putty out of there that somebody stuck up in there, the dirty bastard, on the prep line in 1967. Popped it out of there, sandblasted. I got a little spot blaster. It wound up being just a little pinhole. Took the welder, welded it up, ground it. A little bit of filler, and that is actually some spray bomb primer over top of it. So, yeah, the other side, when I dug the putty out, it was still clean gray putty on the top. You know what I mean? The surface that was up against the coat of pino over there. So that tells me that there is no rust on the inside of that quarter. Otherwise, the top of that little wad of sealer would be brown with surface rust, and it was not. It was gray. So I'm not worried about that side. This side, Just a freak fluke. It happened. But it's fixed now. And I don't believe that it was a problem when I did this, otherwise I'd have fixed it then, right? So I'm going to give her the old goat coat here. I use this powder for a guide coat. I don't like spray balm and stuff. And I bought spray balm guide coat before. It didn't last with a shit. There wasn't very much in that can. I wasn't very happy about it. I've used 3M, usually. This is, I don't know what the hell this is, Indasa, I think it's called. I don't like it as much. But I can't bring myself to pay what they want for the 3M wipe-on guide coat. I mean, it's ridiculous. But one of the things that I like about this stuff is you can take your applicator, and like if you're rubber, you can rubber into them scratches. You know what I'm saying? And if you like to guide coat with a spray balm, well then you just carry on, guide coat with a spray balm. I don't give a shit what you do. I'm telling you what I do. All right? So just shut up. Ooh, that was harsh. Sorry. But spray balm, it's not necessarily going to get down into them scratches, into the bottoms of the scratches. And when I've been in the trade and I've been working with the younger generation, see how you can rub that right in there, doing this kind of stuff, and they're using guide coat when they're doing their prep work on collision work and whatever, because believe it or not, some people do that. I've told them, because I know, just because this is gone, your surface guide coat is gone, that doesn't necessarily mean that whole scratch is gone, because it might not be right to the bottom of that scratch. If you got a 180 grit scratch and you just sand it with whatever you're sanding it with until that guide coat's gone, that 180 scratch is probably now a 240 scratch. You know what I'm saying to you? It's not a 320 scratch yet because you didn't get to the bottom of it. So this is more or less just to tell you where you haven't done yet, basically. And I guess, you know, if you're concerned about the quality of your work underneath, well, and you're still looking for highs and lows, which at this point you shouldn't be looking for highs and lows anymore. I guess this would facilitate that as well, but it's a good idea or two when you're in primer like this to use this stuff, because you can pay attention to your body lines with it too. I might try. I seen, what was I watching? I was watching a YouTube. Oh, it was an old Bad Chad YouTube video. Oh, he's not bad. Is he Bad Chad? Yeah, that's what he is now. And he was touring hot rod shops in the States. The old Chad Hiltz there. And, you know, actually, I don't know if anybody's ever watched him. Sometimes I kind of can't take it. But actually, he's done a few videos where he's been touring these hot rod shops. And actually, I thought he really presented himself really well. Sometimes in his own videos, he's a little, I don't know. He's a little bit, he's like he's lecturing, and he's, I don't know, he's like he thinks he's a preacher or something, I don't know. So it kind of rubs me on me a little bit the wrong kind of way. Anyways, what I'm getting at, I'm not just saying that I do think that he done good. He presented himself very well, and he was quite humble when he was around these guys that build these world award-winning $2.5 million, $5 billion hot rods. Point being, one of the shops that, Jesus, my wheels just, they don't go where I want them to. He was at a shop, and it was a paint shop. I can't remember the guy's name. He's won the Beautiful Roadster, America's Beautiful Roadster Awards, you know, whatever the hell that is, a few times. And he had wipe-on guide coat that he used, but it was made by Mirka. And he said he was really quite happy with the stuff. So I might look into that. Because he kind of said the same thing, that 3M stuff sometimes is a little hard to swallow. So, Mirka, that's what I'm going to look for. So in an effort, on my part, this gay, to not have the paint portion of the show on this thing turn into, the other way, you old fat kitty. Can you see the old, can you see the chubby kitty? Can you see the chubby kitty pissing me off? In an effort for this thing to not cost the dude $35,000 for the paint portion, for what's left of it, which he's firmly convinced, given I don't know. He's just really quite convinced that it's going to cost $1 million for me to paint this thing for him. So I told him that it ain't gonna. So what I'm going to do here is, again, if this thing was something ridiculous, well, I'd carry on with blocks, but it ain't. So I'm going to carry on with this. What I got? I got to find another one of these because this is wearing out. So you see my sander, and you see my pad. Can you see the pad on my sander? See how soft that is? Oh, so soft. See? Just look at that. Oh, so soft. See that? Am I getting my point across to you? So this has got a stick of 320 on it. So that's what I'm going to go over it with. Because as demonstrated, it's pretty straight. Now if you go over to this thing with a sander and you're using a hard rigid pad, chances are pretty good that the edge of that pad's going to dig in all over the place. So, well here, I'll start down here so I can demonstrate a little bit. What you want to do when you're doing this is you gotta keep the ocean in motion. You gotta keep the motion in the ocean. You gotta get out of here, fatty cakes. You gotta beat it because it's gonna get dusty. I don't like pouring dust all over the cats. So why don't you just piss off, you old tubby kitty, you? And you wanna put it on the panel, then hit your trigger, and then give her the business. Get out of the way, would you? No, beat it, scram. Here, let me get you in a little better. So when I'm doing this, I'm not pushing on my pad. I'm not pushing on the sander whatsoever. If anything, all I'm doing is holding it up and moving it. Like I'm not applying pressure to the surface, and I'm just letting it glide. You might notice how choppy it is. It's because where I worked when I got this pad, we used vacuums in the shop I worked in. And actually, I kind of like it because it allows the pad to be even softer. When I try to find another one of these pads, I'm going to try to find another 6-hole or 8-hole vacuum pad again. Because like I said, it makes it even softer because you got section. You know what I'm saying to you? Can you smell what I'm stepping in here? It's where you really want to pay attention because you can take a body line like that, whoa, and you can flush that down the toilet in the blink of an eye. But if you're just letting your sander float across the surface, well, you're not going to dig into that line and move it around, right? And I mean, at this point, even if it does move a little bit, I can come back. Because what I'm going to do is, this is 320 grit on here right now. Right, So I'm going to go over this with the 320, and I'm going to kill the scratches. And then I'm going to take the orange block I got up there, and I'm going to take a sheet of 400, and I'm going to put on the block, and it's going to take a quick little after this with 400, and then we're going to be ready to paint. So anything like this, if I move a line, if I just soften a line up too much or whatever, then with the 400 on the block, I can clean that back up again. See, with this soft pad, I can run it right around there, and I ain't doing nothing. I ain't doing nothing. Because demonstrating again, can you see that? And I mean, that's just the weight of the sander. If you're sanding primer, don't ever hit it with a spinning piece of paper, because that's just like a hatchet. Stop it before you hit the surface. Stop it before you hit the surface. I got a mask up here. This is bad. One thing that I guess I should say out loud that I'm thinking, but I'm not saying, is I ain't going in a crosshatch pattern anymore. We're just going back and forth with it. Because now at this point and with this thing, you don't want to go up and down that surface with in primer with this. Primer is soft. It's very soft. Oh, it's so soft. Oh, so soft. Oh. So you don't want to go up and down with it, because then you're going to put the rainwater, the raindrops in the pond. You're going to put the fat kid jumping on the waterbed in there if you do that. You don't want to do that. So at this point, and really, you're not taking much material off at this point. You're taking the 180 grit scratches out, and they're not very, you're not shaping anything anymore. Well, I hope you're not, because you shouldn't be, because it's not going to go good for you if you are. So yeah, I just go back and forth, because I'm not taking enough out of it to, like I was saying before with the block and how you can get the stop sign effect on the side by running ribs in it. Because like I said, you're just not taking that much off. And with the soft pad, it's soft. Do you want me to go through the soft thing again? Because there's a lot of softness. This is a very soft day today. Oh, so soft. I tend to use, I use Velcro paper for my sanders. So for finger padoodling like this here, I use, I don't go for a 8x11 sheet and cut it up. Used to, don't anymore. You get too many hard edges on it and it doesn't last long enough. I like this stuff because, it's got the Velcro. Again with the soft, hey? And, the hell was I even saying? Oh, so if you fold it up like that, it kind of gives it a little bit of support, but it doesn't have that hard knife edge on it like you get on paper. You know what I mean? Like usually you would tri-fold your paper up, right? Like everybody does. And then you get that hard steak knife on the edge of it. Whereas this, you get more of a bull-nosed edge on it. So it doesn't cut, you know what I mean? It doesn't carve into it. And you get a nice point on that. And as soon as you lose your paper, your grits off of that point, well, you can just take it and then you can just fold it and you got a lot of points. You can get a lot of points off of that. You know what I'm saying? To do this. Just to get into these grills, well, there's a little triangle in the bottom here that you got to get in there and sand. So if you do this with this paper, gives you a nice point to get in there, and then it's got a little bit of support back there, so you can stuff that into that, just stuff her on in there, and scoop her out. Hey? And then you could even go into your pocket, and get your handy dandy little pocket screwdriver, to use for a little block. Okay? See, and if you run that edge into that corner, like it's not just Ginsu knifing an edge out of there. Is Ginsu still a thing? Do they still make them? Maybe the ShamWow guy's selling them now. The ShamWow guy. Remember when a hooker beat the shit out of him? Oh, that's funny. I remember seeing the pictures of him when the hooker beat him up. Holy Christ. She handed him his ass. I got 400 on this Johnny now. And like I said, over the 320, I'm not going to guide coat it or nothing. Because, this is all it's going to get. And like I said, I'm going to seal this too with it's a urethane-based sealer. It's a direct-to-metal deal that I use, which is good because I got some burn-throughs. On the top of the quarter here, I can see, I don't know what the hell I had it for because, shit, I think I've only bought it once or twice, but I can see here where I burnt through on the top of my coat of Pinot. I don't know if you can make that out, but this here, that's white epoxy that I've got underneath this. Like I say, I've only bought white epoxy a couple of times. Might have been all they had maybe when I got it. I don't know, it's like 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago. As a kid when I did this. So, I don't know if anybody thinks this is the right way to do it. I'm not asking anybody if they think this is the right way to do it. I've been doing it like this for so damn long that I don't give a shit if anybody thinks this is the right or the wrong way to do it. I mean, if I was old Bondo Billy, I'd be telling you all that you're a bunch of idiots and you're stupid and everything else because you don't believe that this is the absolute perfect way to do this. This is the way I do it. I don't care how you do it. Maybe you don't care how I do it either. I mean, shit, maybe we just don't give a shit about each other and we're good like that. See, a lot of times this is why I don't make video after video after video, because for the next bunch of days, this is what I'm going to be doing. So what's the point? You see me do this today. So but that's it. I think you get the point. That's it. That's it for today. Cut.